this week's show, UK Aware.
And Michelangelo Pistoletto at the Tate Modern.
UK Aware, what a fantastic show. All nature of green things on show there, but lots of green gadgets, which suited me very well.
And Michelangelo Pistoletto rolled a big ball of tabloid newspapers, huge thing, and he rolled it across the Millennium Bridge into the Tate Modern to talk about rolling news. That's really interesting.
And this week?
And this week it's Love London. Did you know that Love London Festival is one of the biggest environmental festivals in the world, and it's happening here for the next 3 weeks?
So many things going on. I got to go to a green eco rally. I got to see a Tesla sports car.
That's right. Zach Goldsmith won the eco rally in a Tesla sports car from Brighton to City Hall.
And that's cool. I'm obviously wanting one of those.
Fantastic. But we'd like to report on Love London because there's so many community sustainable events happening all over the place. So we wonder if you could go out there, film them and tell us how much you love London and what's happening here in London in the next 3 weeks.
Yes, upload your films to YouTube and then email PositiveTV, tell us where they are, and we're going to put them onto our PositiveTV website so you can actually become part of PositiveTV.
So fantastic. We'll look forward to your films and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Welcome to UK Aware 2009 in Olympia in London. Below us lies a cornucopia of all things green, eco and innovative. And we're here, Positive TV, to show you around the show. So why don't you come with us?
My name's Kirsten and I deal with all the customer services at Tree to My Door. We're like an online florist, but instead of selling flowers, we sell trees. So where you send somebody a bunch of cut flowers, we send them a tree, and I can show you one if you want, actually.
Fantastic.
That's one of our little native hazel trees that we send out. That's actually injected with truffle spores. So if you plant that in the ground, hopefully after 4 or 5 years you should get some truffles.
Underneath your hazelnut tree.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We do quite a few. We do quite a few native trees, and then we do some more ornamental trees. That's a lemon tree just over there.
The little one there. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really nice tree. It's so much nicer present than just sending some cut flowers that die after.
That's it. It's quite wasteful. It's expensive, and these, it's an ethical gift without being in your face, really.
So I'm Edward Hibbert. I'm one of the volunteers who help keep Free Cycle running on the Edinburgh group, but I'm down here to help out with this event.
Okay, so tell us about Free Cycle then.
So basically, it's a free way of keeping stuff out of landfills. So the idea is that everybody's got stuff that's either lying around that they really ought to get rid of, but they just haven't quite got round to. Or there's something they could really use, but they just don't have the resources to buy it, maybe, or they don't want to buy something for new when it might be available second-hand. So, and the thing is, they probably live 2 streets away from each other, but they've never met and they don't know. So this is the way in which you can put those people in touch. And if you've got something to give away, then you send a message to this group saying, offer sofa, Hackney or wherever you live, and then people think, yeah, I could really use a sofa, my flat's empty, and they'll send a reply, and you pick somebody that you fancy giving it to, and then they come round and they take it away, and you're happy because you've got rid of that sofa without really very much effort, and they're happy because they've got a sofa for free, and the planet's happy because you haven't made a new sofa and put one in a landfill. So basically everybody wins out of that.
I'm Tom Jewett. I'm the founder and managing director of the Big Lemon Bus Company. It's an eco-friendly bus company operating in Brighton. We run on 100% waste cooking oil from local chip shops and restaurants, and we run a public service to the universities and also private hire services.
Wow, that's fantastic. Do you have more than one bus?
We've got 5 vehicles at the moment, three like this, one smaller one and a 57-seater coach.
Wow.
So pretty much whatever people's needs are, we can put together a package for them.
But how do the other bus companies in Brighton feel about this then?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I've no idea. You'd have to ask them.
Okay.
But it's a free market, so everyone's invited to compete in the marketplace, and that's what we do.
So you find me sitting here beside Hugh, who's the owner of the Fair Trade Furniture Company. So tell us about Fair Trade Furniture then.
Well, we like to think of this as being the feel-good business that we're in, giving people a chance to sit back and enjoy a feel-good moment in these lovely chairs, which are they're a sort of global cooperation. We've got a Swedish designer who lives in the UK, and he and I together went out with these designs and prototyped them in Indonesia, where they're made, on a fair trade basis by 2 groups that we're working with over there on the island of Java. So all the chairs, the fair trade element is currently in the chairs. It's in the weaving and in the carpentry. And you'll see the 3 particular materials. We've got banana fibre, seagrass, and rattan. And they are, so the skills that we use are a mixture of carpentry and weaving. And then we add the feather cushions here in the UK to sort of give that finishing touch of the ultimate relaxation, which I hope you're enjoying.
It's now here with Tom Lawton from the Firewinder company. It is indeed, yes, my company, my little company, based in Wiltshire normally, so we've come to the big smoke for the weekend here at UK Aware. Very exciting. Tom, tell us about a Firewinder. Why should we be interested? What is it? Well, Firewinder is an engaging wind-powered device that turns a breeze into an incredible spiral of light. Whenever the wind blows, it transforms instantly the wind into this delicate spiral of light that changes with the ebbs and flows of the wind, so that the faster it blows, the brighter Firewinder glows, and everything in between. And what you get is this incredible light show that really just inspires people to engage with renewable energy. It blows away your winter blues. So if you imagine, let's take a product in. If you imagine when November comes and the weather gets really dark and bleak, and it's dark that extra hour early, get a Firewinder in the back of your garden, on your roof terrace or your balcony. It adds a little bit of wind-powered magic and sparkle to blow away your winter blues.
Okay, we're going to start now, if that's all right. We've given the stragglers time to struggle. So, my name is Tim Lang, and I'm Professor of Food Policy at City University here in London, where I head up a Centre for Food Policy. I've been asked to chair this. I'm going to introduce our panel, then I'm going to just say a few words before they then speak. On my right, your left, Rosie Boycott, who's head of London Food, standing in for Mike Duckett of the Royal Brompton, who is unfortunately ill, seriously ill, being rushed into hospital, but he's okay apparently, is Jackie Schneider, so a gender change here. Jackie very kindly from Merton Parents, a sort of good activist and teacher on public policy. Extreme left over here, your right, Kath Galmini from Sustain, who is all things to all people. And hastily, Chris Horridge from Clifton House, which is where the bourgeoisie cavorted and caused scandals endlessly for 60 years. And they still do. So we'll hear all of this in the name of public institutional food later. Okay, just to sort of tease you into what the topic is here. What we're meeting to talk about is, the title, in case you've come to the wrong meeting, in which case go gently now, is Feeding People in Public Institutions. This is a very interesting and extremely unsexy topic over the last 10, 15, 20 years. But it's a topic and an issue which is coming back into mainstream public policy and commercial policy. It's an issue which used to be at the forefront of trying to think through where food went. So it's returning, it's not new. In the 1980s, public food essentially went off the agenda because the political ethos was privatization. School meals were privatized, hospital meals were privatized, even prison food was privatized. But in the 1990s, on the back of public health evidence, some beginnings of concern about social inequalities, public food began to creep back onto the agenda, not least due to the work of Sustain, as it was then called the National Food Alliance, which Kath is here representing, and long-term campaigning about issues like school meals, that Jackie will talk about, no doubt. And in the 2000s, reforms of public food came onto serious mainstream political agenda. There was a resuscitation of school meals standards, which had been abolished in 1980. Sections 22 and 23 of the School Meals of the Education Act in 1980 abolished nutrition standards that had been put in place in 1944 by a conservative Minister of Education and had been reinforced by all party governments ever since. So in the 2000s, we've got it coming back on the agenda in a big way. The 2010s, most of us think, and I suspect all of us here think, it's going to be about mixing public health agenda, sustainability, and international issues of equity and trade and availability, issues like food security. So there's a fast evolving agenda. If you think of that in 4 decades, the agenda has shifted dramatically. So this is an extremely timely meeting. What's at stake? I think we think it's about money. £2 billion of our taxpayers' money is spent on public food. It's the credit crunch. Finances are being squeezed. Trillions of money is being thrown at bankers. Without any doubt, there's going to be pressure on the public purse to reduce public institutions, and public food might be squeezed by that. There are some issues of practicalities and skills. Rosie's been wonderful on this, pushing it in London, trying to get new projects celebrating skills. It's a cultural issue that I'm sure Chris will talk about. You can produce wonderful food in a hospital or in a hotel or a school, but if people won't eat it, what do you do? There's the politics of it. Are governments going to support? What are the political parties' different positions on it? But I think above all, it's an issue where we would all, I think, agree, and I suspect most of you, but who knows, it's up to you. There's going to be an issue about change, how to manage the change, how to get everyone to move. There's a friend of mine from Cumbria, or what used to be the Lake District, says you can't sort things out unless everyone's on the same mat. Are we all on the same mat on public food? So that's what we're going to be debating about. I hope that sort of got us all onto roughly the same mat, but I'm very happy if others want to say different things. So with no more ado, first with Rosie.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you. I mean, the first thing I'd like to say about public food is that about 6 years ago when I broke my leg, I spent a lot of time in hospital, and the one thing that I found absolutely essential to take with me was a jar of tomato ketchup, so that I could smother every single meal in the stuff in order to get it down my throat, because quite frankly it was both pretty unpalatable and extremely unhealthy, and almost no vegetables or fresh salads or fresh fruit were served. But it is encouraging, and in the short time I've been chair of the London Food Board, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of initiatives, and as Tim says, I think we are all slowly getting onto the same map, and the government has woken up to the need that public institutions, almost over and above everything, because they are the most massive consumers of food, have to do something about that offering if we're not going to have the runaway obesity and diabetes and ill health and what happens to kids in schools in terms of ADT, which I'm sure Jackie will talk about. And we've all seen the magical effect that feeding people decent food can have on them, and especially can have on young children. What in the London Food Board we've been doing is that, first of all, we have to say, well, you've got to get good food into the right places where the public institutions can buy it. So we do a lot of work with the markets, with reconfiguring them, and then with building hubs around London so that the smaller producers can get access with fresh, locally sourced, seasonal food that is really healthy and get it into the capital. So we work with smaller groups, we work with the transport so that we have low emissions and electric vehicles bringing it in. And this is something that I'm hoping over the next 3 years we will rapidly expand, and that if I could wave my wand and have a vision, I'd have a food hub every 40 miles around the M25 roughly, so that there'd be a continuous supply coming into the markets. As the Food Board, we've also funded people in all the main markets so that they're there to help the smaller producer who's giving us really local and seasonal and good food. But of course, there's no point in having the good food again unless you also provide some level of training. That's not just because food waste is massive, and what that comes down to is bad catering, buying too much, buying the wrong thing, and ending up in landfill. And as we all know, food contributes a massive 40% to our emissions, our CO2 emissions in this country. So it's one area where we can really, really work towards mitigating climate changes by changing our weird and strange and cumbersome food system. One of the projects we've been particularly behind is something called School Food in Greenwich, run by Claire Pritchard. And Claire does a wonderful thing of creating gardens in schools where the kids cook, and then they bring their parents in to cook with them. But more than that, she's trained now over 1,000 public sector chefs in how to produce good food at a reasonable price, because people go on about saying, well, there's the credit crunch and the government are going to cut down on food. The reality is we can't afford to cut down the bills on good food, because we get the bills coming back at us later in terms of extra healthcare and all the things that go wrong with kids when they have a bad diet. So we have to do it, but also it doesn't have to cost the earth if you know what you're doing and you know how to cook. And you realise that you can get just as much out of pulses and lentils as without having to necessarily supply processed meat, which we all eat too much of anyway. So I think that we have to see this as part of a cultural thing. I mean, I was glad that Tim said the word public procurement is extremely unsexy. Unfortunately, it is. On the whole, people are much more interested in hearing about events like today and farmers markets and sort of new types of cheese than they are about hearing, well, how do we supply our hospitals and our schools? But actually, that's really where the big cultural shifts have to happen, because when they can happen at that point, then they will genuinely ripple out across the whole country. So that's my bit. I'm going to pass you over to Jackie for that.